Welcome to 111 Ways to Heal. And today I am with Eliza, and I'm so proud of this episode. We talked about so many things, and primary topic of this episode, thank you, beautiful. A primary focus of the session was on yoga. And I met Eliza through yoga classes online. They just on this beautiful beach, like not exactly in this location, but on the beach and in public, and it's just been a collective experience, or in the forest, and it's been beautiful to reflect on Eliza's journey with yoga, with healing, with just overall reflections of what healing is to us and what yoga has done for Eliza and her community. So I really hope you enjoy the rest of the episode, and I hope to see some of you in the comments. Like with anything in life, there is an infinite number of things that are healing to us. 111 Ways to Heal podcast is about that. Enjoy. Thank you so much for being here with me. It is genuinely an honor to do this interview with one of the people that really inspired me to keep at my practices and keep at my routines that I've set up for myself, because you show up so much to your practices and what you facilitate to people. So welcome, Eliza. How do I say your name? Eliza. Welcome to Eliza.
Thank you.
And it's really a pleasure. Do you want to tell a bit more about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. So, indeed, my name is Eliza. When I came to Australia, it did become this version, the Australianized version, Eliza. My mother was very upset. so she made sure that I was always correcting. My background, I was born in Lithuania, and it was around the time when the Soviet Union was collapsing. So we eventually found ourselves as refugees in Finland, and then here in Australia, in this beautiful country. When I came to Australia, I definitely didn't feel included. Australia back then was not as welcoming, maybe especially in primary school culture. And so what I didn't realize was a healing to my inner child. What I eventually created in my 30s, this concept of feel good flows, which looks like a yoga class when you just see it from the outside perspective. Upon reflection, recently I realized that I was creating what I wished I had as a child. So one of the most beautiful things is that most of the people at Feel Good Flows were not born here. Most of them have either migrated here or they're in their transitional chapters, maybe just out of relationships or changing jobs. And that's why they go and they look for something that makes them feel like they belong. And I have to say that I never thought it would be what it is today. It was created with the deepest of humility during the time of isolation of COVID, as simply me meditating on the beach, because it was all we were allowed to do was to go outside. And then other people saw it on my social media, and I welcomed them. I said, come along. And now it's, today we have over 100 people every Sunday morning, kind of like church without all of the extremism, that's for sure, or division. It's all welcoming. I don't care what you do outside of Feel Good Flows. You can practice any religion, you can practice anything you like in this world, as long as there is kindness when you arrive, inclusivity when you arrive, both to yourself and then to others. It always starts with yourself first. And our path is growing together. Together we can grow a lot stronger, we can go higher. And it's evident in a very, what is now an effortless offering for me. It feels easy. It wasn't always, but I can go into that in detail.
Thank you. How are you doing with wind? Do you want this?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I do really feel like this place is very inclusive and genuinely a great place to meet people from different cultures, like I already did. And the way you just pick locations is also superb. I think it's really special and probably also attracts certain people as well. I personally, first thing I've attended is forest bathing, and that felt so special to go into nature. Nature is really a place of healing for me, place of just connection. and feeling that with like in synergy with other people because of the safe space that you've created through the flows, through the meditation music, like all of that just felt beautiful. And some of the connections I've made in Melbourne were there, and I now have podcasts with them. So it's really beautiful and special how quickly it also all happened. And it just is a good testament to the people you bring together are really aligned in the first place. And it's beautiful to come together like that. I also went to your Loom experiences, which again, like picturesque, beautiful space that probably attracts the first, but then you are trapped, not trapped, air quotes, because you are sort of introduced to this beautiful practice of challenging yourself that you probably wouldn't sign up, not everyone at least, in from a first glance. But when you are there and you're already experiencing the beauty, and then you're also challenged to overcome something, or scream and shout from the top of your lungs something you thought you will never shout in front of strangers, is great. And I feel again really honored that there are people who like yourselves that are happy just to challenge others. And again, I think it does come from yourself to be comfortable with challenging yourself, and you do reference that a lot. So can you tell me a bit more about you, the community, and the the healing and like unity in challenging yourself and overcoming that? Because it really feels like feel good flows is based on all on first the community feeling and the community healing, and then also the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And really great question. The insight that I had when you look at any Indigenous community anywhere around the world, there's so many similarities. Yeah. And they don't have social media to show each other what they're doing. They didn't learn from copying each other or parroting each other. They're all very connected to the land and connected to nature. When you came to the forest bathing, one of the most incredible settings there is the fact that we are in a community of trees, and those trees are all interconnected with each other. And if one tree gets sick, the other trees will send through the roots the healing properties that are needed. That's why all the trees stand so strong and tall, and they keep getting taller and taller and taller. So when we can learn from nature and we can realize that these redwood forests that are filled with the strongest trees, the tallest trees, and the most powerful converters of oxygen. That's why we do specifically breath work in these locations. We can learn from them and realize that this solo self-healing journey that the Western world is on, sitting alone and reading book after book after book, and then going to a psychiatrist and telling only this one person in secret all of your problems and what's on your heart because you're too ashamed to say it out in public to people is the root of our suffering. We have so much, I think it's a 25% increase in anxiety in Australia. Suicide rates are increasing. So there is a correlation between the modernization of the world and the mental health depreciation of the world. And I think, and I really strongly believe it's because we haven't adapted community healing enough. When you look at the suicide specific conversation here, I lost my brother 4 years ago to a drug overdose suicide. Not sure. But he was very depressed and he didn't have a community, and he isolated himself with his problems because he didn't want other people to witness them. He didn't want to be a burden. And that deep level of isolation killed him. And that almost broke my family until it made us stronger with each other than ever before. We went through the pain, we mourned, we grieved, and we still grieve every day. Grief never goes away. It's there. You're just, your container gets bigger to hold it with a bit more ease. So something really tragic, the biggest challenge that happened to my family, ended up bonding us. We all ended up, without needing to say it, prioritizing family. We have coffee in the mornings very often now, and we take holidays together very often. And we do not say maybe next year ever, because we just don't know if that's going to be an opportunity or not. So it stopped us from delaying things. It stopped us from getting distracted with things that are not important. And my family unit became very strong because of the deepest challenge that we experienced. So then now, as you have mentioned with this particular group, what am I doing? I mean, I'm never strategizing the way that I would when I was in the corporate world. Everything has been an intuitive, organic growth and evolution. So I never really understand why I've done something because I didn't research or think about it necessarily. But intuitively, I grew Feel Good Flows into a community healing and growing group. How? By putting them in nature. Why? Because nature will challenge you. We're not in a closed environment without any variables. We've had a little bit of rain. We've had the threats of storms. We've had really windy days. We've had the forest bathing you went to, I believe it was raining that day, but the trees gave us enough protection. The poetry in the park that I ran just 2 days ago, the storm was coming, and I was looking at the weather forecast. Now the coolest thing is that Feel Good Flows has a weird karma. We've never actually been rained out. We've had a bit of rain, but there's only been one time where I've had to move everyone to an undercover area because it was cold and windy, and I'm like, these people are going to get sick. I don't want people to get pneumonia. But the challenge of being in nature is very cool. You know, you just don't know what's going to fly above you. You don't know what the sounds are going to be nearby. You don't know what is going to happen with the different variables all around you. And then ultimately, the most important part is when you're immersed in nature, you're actually immersed in yourself. Your body is made by nature. And so this practice that leans you into connection with nature is actually indirectly what it's doing is connecting you deeper with yourself. You hear the waves crashing, you feel your own waves crashing. You feel the winds, you feel the sun, you feel the warmth, you feel it all within you and around you. It's a very grounding and present evoking experience, more than I can do in a studio. In a studio, we need music, we need lights, dimming. We need all of these things in order for people to drop in. It's harder to do all of this in nature at first, and then it becomes easy. Then you relax through the tension, and it's wonderful. And there are a lot of really interesting research papers that I get sent, and I find, and I love them. And one of the most incredible examples that I came across was about there's this what would you call it? There was like a test or like a research that was done and about community connection. And one of the tests that they did, or the hypotheses that they wanted to prove, was about people bonding through challenge. And so they put people onto a bridge that was made of stone that didn't move at all, and they did a series of exercises. And then they put a group on a bridge that was all rickety and wobbly, and there was a few things missing, and there was wind coming, and everything was moving and shaking. And they asked people to do the same activities. And the difference in the connection that those human beings ended up having with each other afterwards was unparalleled. It was amazing contrast. And so this idea, okay, are we really going to bond over a beer in the sun as much as we might bond trying to navigate the redwood forests, mud and dirt and wet and this, and trying to find the group? The map is a little obscure, driving all the way into the mountain. Oh, someone doesn't have a car, I'm going to collect them from their house. It's like, this is life. Life is about obstacles, and when you do them together, you bond through that challenge and you bond through that obstacle. The Himalayan breathwork experience that you referenced at the Loom, asking people to scream at the top of their lungs. You've never been given permission to do that in life. In fact, most people act small and they try to be invisible, and they think that their noise, that their presence, that their existence is taking up space, and it's a burden. And this is asking you to do the exact opposite. The most incredible healing practice that you can do for shame or for guilt is pride. So to ask people to stand up proud with their shoulders back and to yell at the top of their lungs is amazingly powerful antidote to whatever shame they have, whatever guilt they still hold on to. I have to say that my passion is definitely watching the community grow together, watching the friendships get formed, watching the shy person that never tries crow pose. It's not about the crow pose, but it's about your mental obstacle. I can't do it. That's not me. I'm not strong. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Or it's about the person that overexerts and does everything and is constantly injured, about watching them all of a sudden sit still, no fidgeting fingers, but sitting still in their meditation, For me as a teacher, it's a privilege. It's an honor to witness human beings grow on their own beautiful, unique journey. And as I mentioned, it's not linear, it's not the same for anyone. Everybody's had a different backstory that they're now walking from. But ultimately, as Ramdas says, we're just walking each other home.
Wow. Thank you. That's beautifully said. And I'm so sorry to hear about your brother. It is true that the moments that almost break us, I think, are very challenging, but also really, as you said, really make us stronger and create this opportunity to really look at your life with like radical honesty and um, yeah, reflect on it and see if you need to make any changes as well. And honestly, the forest bathing made me sort of curious a bit about trees more because of some references you're making. And I read The Secret Life of Trees, and it's such a good book. And it's like connects you to realization that we all are just a part of the earth ecosystem, and all of us are literally just different organisms, but we do have such similarities just across the board everywhere. So yeah, I need to honor that a bit more, I think, in our real life. I am wondering why yoga. I just really want to understand like your connection to yoga personally, because there are so many other ways to bring communities together or like introduce challenge, and you get to do this through yoga and through exercise and mental challenge. And I personally really love yoga as well, but I've never like connected to a community through yoga before this, and I feel like that's because every time it was in studio, and it's not it for me. And now I think my life has changed fully because now I can see yoga in a different light and take that away with me even when I move away from Melbourne. So why yoga?
That's a good question. And the answer to that would have changed every single year, depending on when you would have asked me. It's always changed. The original reason yoga came into my life, I was born with a hereditary problem with my joints, and I was meant to do a double knee reconstruction after suffering maybe 20 knee dislocations in my teens. I was very much not the person ever at the front of the class in anything to do with PE. I was always hiding in the back because of all of the pain and the weakness. And so yoga was prescribed to me as an alternative to the surgery. I cancelled the plans with the surgery and decided to try yoga as a holistic approach. Um, if you would have met me back then, it was like smoking cigarettes in Paris and drinking coffees. And when I got told to do yoga, I laughed and was like, oh, no, like that's for somebody, who collects crystals. This is some hippie shit. I'm not doing it. And I was a glam girl in the advertising world, and I thought that that was amazing. It was not. It was such and excuse my French, but just such a crock of shit. It was absolutely a lie. It was an ego filled lifestyle, but it was a wild adventure at the time, and I needed to live it in order to know what it was and not to ever get tempted to go back into that kind of a lifestyle in the future. So yoga started, and I went to a class, and I couldn't do a downward dog. I was in so much pain. I couldn't stand on one leg. It was too painful. I had to hold the bars or the wall. And I came into yoga with an extreme deficit. There's a lot of yoga teachers that I love that were former dancers, that are former ballerinas, and their practice is incredible to watch. It's beautiful. My practice was not beautiful to watch. It is pretty nice now. It's pretty strong, and I don't recognize myself in videos when people show me a video of me moving that I didn't realize that was being taken. And I get a lot of compliments saying your practice is so beautiful, and these words just feel so foreign for me because I never ever thought I could be someone that moved beautifully. I moved with a lot of pain. And so, lo and behold, this double knee reconstruction surgery that was booked was put on hold. Yoga was introduced, and I understood it as a physical practice. And so, what was amazing was that I did see results really fast. I was able to stand on one leg within a few months, without holding the edge. All these micro stabilizers that I never activated were the reason of my dislocations. So if you were to do a double knee reconstruction and redo the knees, but not look at the rest of the body holistically and realize that there are no stabilizers working in this person's body, that's why everything's out of alignment. The yoga practice turned all these little, I think of the body like it has little minions inside, all these little cute conscious cells that come together and they hold your ankle in its correct alignment and your knee in its correct alignment and your hips, etc., etc. And so what started as a physical practice stayed a physical practice for many years. I was focused just on the body. I thought Shavasana was a waste of time. Shavasana is the lying down posture at the end that you can just really understand it as the time for reintegration and to allow your body to now absorb everything you've done. I call it marinating time as well sometimes. But I thought it was a waste of time. I thought the meditation was a waste of time. I could do so many things now. I could answer all these emails. I could do all these things. Why would I just lie here? This inefficiency. But I was later found out when I did my yoga teacher training in the yogi teachings, we call it samskaras, which are basically all these beliefs that you carry. It's like your mind being imprinted with lots of things. And one of the things that I had, one of my samskaras, is that if you're not busy, you're not doing life properly. You should be ashamed of yourself. Because I come from a very hardworking single mother. Yeah. She worked 4 jobs sometimes. So I felt very guilty. And I would always like quickly pretend that I'm working if my mum would come home. Like, no, I can't be just lying here or drawing. I have to be working, cleaning something. So that was very exposing. And yoga practice changed from a physical practice to a revealing practice for me, revealing what my samskaras were, what were all of my stories that I had told myself about the world. It's like popping the hood open of the car for the first time and understanding, oh, wow, you've never changed the oil here. That's why it's painful to take that corner, or your brake pads are completely, you pop the hood open of your mind and you realize that there's all of these things that have happened along the way. And your mind has become programmed again and again and again by your parents, by your schools, by your society. You're a product of all of these societies, beliefs of the society as well. And so when the yoga practice, I thought I was healthy in my mind because I was happy and I was busy and I was a high achiever. And I thought, I'm amazing. Look at all these depressed people over there. Look at these homeless people or these drug addicts. It's like these people are the ones that need help. I'm good. I'm strong. I don't need anyone to help me. I was wrong. I was so addicted to pressure, stress, working a lot, really hard, to the point that I was quite unhealthy in a lot of other ways. Like chronic stress in my body had caused me to develop cervical cancer at one point of my career. Stress is the cause of so much. But then also when you think about the yoga postures, they're all channel purifiers. So you think about them like removing the traffic jams in your body. When you've got poor circulation because you've got stagnant energy or you've got blockages along the way, and the yoga practice is just being like, hey, let's remove all these traffic jams so you can circulate really well. How many diseases you've prevented? So many cancers are preventable. So many diseases are preventable. So I have no idea who I would be like today without every single practice that I've done leading up to where I am today. And understanding my mind a bit more and realizing that just because on the facade it was strong, like the duck with the little feet hidden under the water, I was panicking underneath. I was constantly looking for something to go wrong. And when you know this, that self-inquiry, it's called svadhyaya, self-study, self-inquiry. That's another yoga teaching. You start to realize it was never about doing the splits, but it was about the self-inquiry of your body, very obviously, but then your mind and then your soul. And it's this layer upon layer that of the revealing practice of yoga that you really come home to yourself, and you do not judge yourself. You do not criticize yourself. You just become aware, and then you take action. So if you're a fidgety, distracted, anxious person out in the world, come to yoga and just see if you could hold your fingers still. That's your practice. If you could focus on your breath for just 1 minute instead of thinking about a million things, that's your practice. Then it becomes 2 minutes, then it becomes 3, then it's 20 minutes. But you start really slow and you do it by first understanding what you need to practice. For me, I needed to practice being in one spot, in one posture for a long time, even though it was difficult. And so, why? It's because I realized that I had a very avoidant attachment style. I was always scared someone would leave me, so I would leave first. When I practice yoga, I leave the posture too early, just that little bit earlier than anyone else in the class. Oof, okay. How you move is how you live. How you practice is how you live. What is going on with me at the moment? I'll start moving and I'll tell you what's going on with me. I might not be able to tell you right now, just sitting here, but if I start doing a yoga practice, I'll be like, oof, okay, you are in your head, or you are lethargic and kind of like today, my practice, I was very slow and I was very, we've got the seagulls that have joined us here as we sit on St. Kilda Beach. I know. But today's practice this morning, I practiced very slow because I was really sad. I got some sad news today. And so when you're sad, you move very slow. But maybe I'm very aware of my emotions. Maybe as someone who wouldn't be aware of their emotions, they wake up, they think everything's great, like I used to 5 years ago. They would come onto the practice and onto the mat, and they wouldn't realize that they're moving very slow. And they're staying in postures for a really long time, and they're sad. And then all of a sudden, the person who is not aware of themselves becomes aware, because how you move is how you are. So the yoga practice originally meant a physical healing, then it meant this mental revealing, and then it became a connection to the self through constant self-inquiry. And then when I can meet up with anyone and just say, hey, I'm a bit sad today because of this and this and this, it's actually a really beautiful way to live, because you don't put on a mask anymore. You hold yourself with compassion. And then the next day they see me and I'm jumping around like a crazy person and I'm like, yeah, let's go. They know they're getting the honest version of me. And I love it's a very liberating and very free and relaxing way to live when you can just constantly be aware of yourself because you know yourself. Today's practice tonight that I'm teaching, for example, is all about knowing yourself. If you don't know what you want, you'll never get it. It'll be right in front of you, everything you've ever wished for. The universe will put it on a silver platter, and maybe it has many times before. The human being hasn't even recognized it because they don't actually know themselves and they don't know what they want. And in so doing, they live this life of this walking around with the mundane, not too excited. And it's like, the world is so excited, you just can't see it. That's a very long way to say that yoga is coming home to myself. That's what it is. And I love offering it to other people. It played such an incredible role for my physical health, my mental health, and then my soul connection. What a beautiful gift it was to myself that I offered in a very hard, like you said before, those moments that don't break us, they can also make us. Those moments almost broke me, but they didn't. And then they made this life for me, and I wouldn't change it for a thing.
Thank you. Yeah. When you mentioned how life gives us opportunities and we might not recognize them, literally yesterday I was currently I'm back to practicing gratitude daily, writing down gratitude, and I really needed to write down thanks to universe for presenting me with something I was asking for, but when I received it I was like, I'm not ready. So thank you, universe, for giving me even if I'm not ready. And just recharge and find myself. That's an opportunity for me to see that I'm not ready and maybe ask for something else. And I love that you also, I don't know, you experienced, I think, all of the circles of familiarizing yourself with yoga practice and the benefits, but not from fully trusting the practice right away. It's more of a really taking time to understand it and experience it and really unlock the levels of the depth that yoga really brings to us. And I personally, I have not even experienced probably yoga the way you describe it in terms of self-exploration, because maybe I've taken a different route towards that. But it's really beautiful to hear that you weren't convinced from the first yoga session, which is beautiful. I feel like we learn a lot more from people who learn themselves and learn the hard way sometimes as well. Maybe that's why you are such an effective teacher for yoga as well, especially in the settings where public can turn up to your beach yoga and just join for the first time. But still, there's just this degree of relating to you on some level. Yeah. So I feel like last windy question for this, what is healing to you overall? And you also were talking about in previous sessions that I've been and attended with you, just around that radical honesty that sometimes you just need to be with yourself. And I also had to be with myself. And I feel like those moments were quite like big catalysts to my healing. But I'm curious, what is healing to you?
It's a simple question, but really, really complicated, isn't it? I recognize that healing for me is peace. It's bringing ease into my life. When we look at the word disease, it's dis-ease, you know? So how do I create a life for myself where I'm at peace, where I'm at ease, so that I can simply enjoy this incredible world, this experience that is life? That as a human being, we've got all of these unusual things that make us human, all these emotions, all the anger and the pain, but then the joy and then the bliss and the ecstasy as well. We've got all these range of emotions. So for me, healing is definitely looking at where I am triggered in my life, what kind of behaviors trigger me, understanding why. If I don't know myself, if someone else knows me better than I know myself, then it's just it's a shame, get to know yourself. The parts of me that needed healing, that needed to be loved the most, they were parts that needed that long, slow, compassionate healing journey. You said before that, you observed that I wasn't fully convinced by yoga at the beginning, and now it's like I'm fully in love with it. I'm obsessed. I go on a training every single year just to explore something new and get myself inspired into a different either lineage or modality, just to maybe not ever end up teaching it, but just to see what it is. And so when you've got all of these interesting parts that make you a human being, all these stories that we've created, it's not about disregarding it and never being angry and never being sad. Absolutely not. It's about really peacefully experiencing sadness, understanding that anger is passionate sadness, understanding that pain came because you love deeply. And then life becomes a healed life, even though there's no such thing. You're in a constant state of healing because new things happen and they will trigger something else from back when, or something new will happen and then that will become part of you. It's this adventure of a life that you can take with ease, where at the end of the day you feel like your books have settled for the day. There's no malice. There's nothing that you regret. You met every moment with love. If you stuffed up along the way and you exploded because something triggered you, you've recognized that and you've learned from it. I used to be a very explosive person, a very unhealed, not even close to healing. I was escaping every single way possible, from moving countries constantly. If I didn't love my job or my partner or whatever, I would be like, no, that's it, I'm moving. And this escapism, that's the opposite to healing. Yeah. So I think that healing is when you stop escaping and that you realize that heaven is right here on earth, that you can create it, that there's no such thing as a negative emotion, just emotions, all complementary to each other. And that if you think that you want to live a love-filled life, prepared to be hurt a lot as well. Yeah, that's the price that we pay. So my heart breaks deeply because I fall in love very deeply with friendships, with romantic loves, with life, with every dog that I meet on the street. So my heart bleeds a lot as well. I can't see anyone around me hurt, let alone someone that I love hurt. My heart bleeds for them, the life of an empath. But I'm okay with it. Does that make sense? It's like, it's okay. The tragedy, the romance, the bliss, the anger, the this or that. You start to understand why you might feel these things and then experience them with deliciousness. Like, this is my appetite for emotions. I'm okay. When I was a kid, my mom called me too sensitive all the time. You're too sensitive. You're too sensitive. But that was because we were living in a war-stricken environment and we were survivalists. So I thought it wasn't okay to feel emotions. And then I carried that with me most of my life. And then when I came to the yoga practice and I didn't even realize that it was going to be a healing journey of not just my bones and my joints, but far beyond that, healing a broken heart, healing a heart that wasn't allowed to have tears. And then all of a sudden, I think I started properly at about 28. So 28 years of tears came out, and the crying came out, and that cathartic release came out. And then a coming home and a loving and a forgiveness. You look where we can take it back to the different indigenous communities and the ancient wisdoms of all different parts of the world and their beautiful practices that they have. You know, I lean into so many and I love them all. We did escaping me, a Buddhist, it's a Buddhist practice, a healing circle. And we all sat around and we sang the mantra that was from Buddhism to one of our students who was feeling really sick. And I think that was one of the most moving experiences that the community experienced. And I was a messenger. I would never call myself a healer. You'll heal yourself. But I'll create some nice frameworks where hopefully people feel safe enough to go into those dark places and to pour them with presence first, and then with love and with compassion next, and to feel lighter when they walk out so that they can see all the gifts that the universe has for them. But we can't walk around with, 35 years of trauma in the backpack. That's my age. I can't walk around with that and expect to feel light and happy. So the healing goes by looking into the darkness, by going in there, presenting it with love, looking at the most troubled version of yourself, not the cute child. There's a lot of inner child healing when you're really cute and innocent. You also got to look at the parts of you that make you kind of cringe when you see the photographs. The teenager, the transition from innocence into adulthood. And love that version of you too. That's the one that needs it more. So to conclude, I think that the healing journey is the going into the darkness, going into the heaviness as a community though, not as one, not by yourself. So now I think that this will be one of our next questions, but it is the future plans and the things that I think about in my meditations and in my reflections that come up for me is that community and collective, connective healing. That is how we will heal. Speak about the things that make you feel sad openly, with your heart open and your chest open, and be proudly present the moments that you lost your way, that you hold immense shame and guilt. Say it out loud. That's how you heal it. That's not something you need to hold on to, because I bet your neighbor has something to say that's very aligned to that as well. We're actually very messy human beings that are all pretending to be perfect. And that is what makes us all in need of a bit more collective healing, realizing that everybody around them is pretending until they stop. And that radical honesty comes out, and it's beautiful.
Thank you. Wow. So well said. Thank you so much. I do wonder what is coming up for you. What does next year look like? What does the end of this year look like? And what are you really excited to gift and to bring to this community?
So I'm super excited because I think that when I first started expanding the concepts, I thought I needed to come up with like really cool ideas, like really cool experiences. The loom was very cool, wasn't it? But what do people need more than that? I think that's a little bit of an ego thing that I had, which was like, let's create the most visually spectacular events, 300 people doing Himalayan Kriya in this greater Himalaya setting at the loom was visually spectacular. And it was an incredible event that I'm very proud of, very, very proud of. But what do people need more than that? They need connection in order to heal. So I'm excited because I'm not moving into retreats like the typical way where it's like $2,000 to spend a weekend doing yoga. Not at all. I'm making it a collective creation. So I found a really beautiful eco conservation land that's managed by someone, or the custodian is a friend of mine. And so the retreat is a camping retreat. It's not at a bougie hotel, even though I love all of that and it serves its time and place. But how can I offer something that's not going to create financial stress? Because that's one of the health pillars is financial health. So something where I can still pay myself fairly as a teacher, because if I'm run down and I'm poor and I've got nothing to offer, then these events start to go south. These events do hold my energy a lot. So pay myself, but not overcharge, like make it really, really accessible. So the camping retreat is created in this way because there's no accommodation, or asking you to bring some effort and to offer something as well for the experience. So some people are baking a cake, other people are bringing a guitar, some people are, it's like a really beautiful collective creation. We've got the beautiful songbirds of the seagulls behind us for those listening at home. But what I realized, the value of that experience, yes, we'll be in nature, and yes, it's really beautiful where we're going. But all these people that they come to an event and then they sort of have that 15, 20 minutes of standing around having a cacao and a chat and make some friends and then make some other plans. I'm excited because the camping retreat is going to give people 2 whole days together. So there's lots of time in between the activities to just lounge around in nature and have a chat. The friendships that will be formed there, the connections that will be formed there, is the cure to the isolation that is leading the mental health decline in Australia. That's why I'm so excited about them. All this time together, there is like reception there, but my invitation is for everyone to turn their phones on airplane mode and to just really enjoy the break and to give themselves a little pocket where they do need to check in home. It's fine. But I'm excited for the time, creating moments where people have time together, no rush. The other experiences for feel good, that's a big one. So that's my first retreat and the first one for us as a community. So it's exciting. Only, this time last year, we had nothing on the cards except for the beach yoga. So this year was the creation of forest bathing, of poetry in the park, of the sunflower field, sound healings. It was all about taking people into really unique places, because I just felt that the quality of life, the way that people are drinking up this exciting thing of life, I could lead that a little bit, maybe more exciting for some people because it's the things I do. But I'm at a very peaceful place in my life. And I think when I was tormented, I didn't think of all these wonderful activities that I can do to experience life. So we'll be continuing with those 1 year in, and they all were so well received. They all sold out, and that means that we need to create more. Some people missed out. The retreat, I think, will be every 2 months. The future of Feel Good Flows, I'd love to. There's some really big conversations with really big brands that want to do big collaborations, which is cool, like power of their resources to create something really that the Feel Good Flows community can be so proud. I think they were really proud. The community was really proud when they saw the Feel Good Flows logo on the Loom massive projection. Like, we'd never seen anything like it. So when you're a part of the community and your community achieves really big things, it's also part of like, oh, I belong to this. And I remember when it was just a chalkboard with a little thing on it. And I remember when the council kicked us off the beach, and I remember this. So they love being a part of that journey. And the future, if I could give you the most radical vision that I have for the future, it would be for Feel Good Flows to have global presence. It would be really cool if people that have experienced it here went back home and then or went traveling and could open an app and find Feel Good Flows happening in nature all around the world. I don't know how to even get close to executing something like this. It is the wild big dream, and I think that's where maybe if I have a big brand that ends up collaborating with me, that's where it could go. But at the same time, sounds very stressful. It sounds like a lot of work and a lot of pressure. And I think I mentioned before, yeah, my practice is to avoid those sorts of things unnecessarily. But having said that, I think we need healing around the world. So we'll figure that one out, whether it goes in that direction or whether it continues to organically grow in that nice slow pace that apparently works much better for me. You've made me realize like sometimes I do expect things in my life to happen very quickly. But the way that you described my journey with yoga to me made me very reflective, thinking I fell in love very late in my relationship with yoga. And parts of my life, I think I rush. So I think it's it's really nice to have this conversation for that self-inquiry in itself, to figure out how can I keep that nice, slow, evolving pace in every aspect because it suits me. It works better for me. That way I can keep the peace and the ease, and Feel Good Flows can continue to grow with a really beautiful pace rather than rushing it into anything. Yeah. They're the visions. If you have any ideas, because it's always been a community creation. I always ask people if you have any ideas of what you want to do. One thing I'm really looking forward to that's really soon is I never thought Christmas mornings would be a time when people would want to go to a yoga class. But apparently Feel Good Flows really, 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 really needs it on a Christmas morning. So I've been running it for 4 Christmases now. And we get a really big turnout. And it's really beautiful because that's the time you spend with your family. And as I mentioned, you know, the community is not necessarily many generations Australians here that are participating in Feel Good Flows. Most of them are migrants. They don't have their families here. Or they're adults, you know, and their family kind of stopped the traditions, and that's a little bit sad for them as well. So it's a really, really, it's probably the most sentimental event that Feel Good Flows runs is Christmas morning. And then we have our powerhouse day, which is New Year's Day, where we really send it. Last year, we got on the front page of the news and across all news channels for the huge, powerful, it's like the Iron Man of yoga, the 108 Sun Salutations Challenge. So I'll be running something like that as well. 2 very different energies. One's sentimental, one's like, yeah, let's primal scream for sure and start the year off really strong. The community is the community literally tells me how to continue growing Feel Good Flows. They'll let me know what they need more of and I'll continue to answer them. Yeah.
Thank you. It is beautiful that you are doing it with the community and with people. And I think we all get really passionate to think that things that we enjoy. And I really love that you are staying open to ideas, to all the offerings, because that makes it a lot stronger. I think, yeah. So I'm looking forward to traveling and finding Feel Good Flows events somewhere abroad. Not at expense of your mental health and your stress, though. Yeah, let's make it happen somehow. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And I appreciate you saying yes to this. And thank you to everyone who listened to this podcast. And I hope you have connected to the story and maybe had an opportunity to reflect on your journey in some way. And if you would like to check out other episodes as well, they are all available on the channel or platform that you're listening from. Thank you again. And we'll talk to you later. Bye. Please share this episode with your nearest and dearest. Give this a like and leave a review. All of these help us reach the right people who need some healing in their life. I hope this serves your healing process.